Now, I've received some people saying that I have overly criticised Scholar too much. Genuinely, some arguments that people have said is that, well, actually, a 1% increase when you buy Scholar is still worth it. Yeah, so if developers charged you 111,000 coins for a 1% increase at max level for the Void Reaver logbook, would you take that? I don't think you will. Oh, a 3% chance is still better than nothing. A 3% chance is barely anything, right? If I reroll something 100 times, I'm only getting it 3 more times. That's like going to this spin wheel here and then looking at this and saying, right, I'm going to increase my odds of getting the mid-grade crate from 8% to about 10%. It's not worth it. However, one other thing that people have said that a Scholar skill does is that it gives you duplicate logbooks. And this isn't true, obviously, but I will explain why the Scholar skill gives you replicate logbooks. Now, when the logbook system was first added to the game, you could actually get replicate logbooks because there was actually no pity kills. So the game decided between a chance of 0.3% to 5% that any logbook from any enemy would drop, depending on the amount of health that that enemy has. So, in the case of something like the Fallen King, that would have a 5% chance of being dropped. However, for something like the Quick, which I can't really find here, oh, here, it's not the Quick actually, it's the Speedy. But in any case, the enemies with low health, they're very close to 0.3% chance of dropping initially when logbooks were first added. So ironic enough that you could get duplicate logbooks of certain enemies in Tower Defense Simulator while you had not even gotten all of the available enemies before getting duplicates. Now, developers supposedly fixed this in an update between when the logbooks were released and I believe the end of the Frost Invasion update. Probably at the same time actually, when they increased the amount of pity kills that you needed to get from 20 to 60, which is also the time when they boosted the odds for logbooks from 0.3% to about 5% to 0.9% and 15%. And for the most part, they did actually fix duplicate logbooks, except in one rare circumstance. In fact, this circumstance is so rare, I can't actually show you on footage, but I can describe it and then show evidence that Menton got when he did it. So, all of this revolves around an enemy that you don't have the logbook for. You cannot do this glitch if you do not have an enemy that you need a logbook for. So, in the case of what Menton did, he needed the Executioner plush logbook in Pizza Party. So, first batch of logbooks, he already all obtained. Voodoo Doll, Commander, Marionette, Breaker 2, Breaker, Citizen plush, Breaker 3, Breaker 4. All of them appeared after getting the Executioner plush logbook, that specific logbook that he did not have. No logbooks appeared before he got the Executioner plush. And then Menton, all of a sudden, got a second batch of logbooks, as you can see here. Now, it is very much the case where it appears that after you get a logbook for an enemy that you do not have, so in Menton's case, in Pizza Party, that was the Executioner plush, you then are able to get duplicate logbooks of enemies that you already do have, but from that game mode only. And also, I would like to caveat that it is only for that match only. After Menton triumphed or lost that match in Pizza Party, he could not get duplicate logbooks for any of those enemies, including the Executioner plush. Again, it is only in that specific match where you get a logbook for an enemy that you do not have, where you can get duplicate logbooks of other enemies that you do have. And for some weird reason, they all get batched up. I don't know why it's the case, because it's not like there's a pity kill, because there are different amounts of Voodoo Dolls, Commanders, Marionettes, Breaker 2, Breaker, Citizen Plush, Breaker 3, and Breaker 4s that spawn in. Well, actually, not between the Breaker, Breaker 2, Breaker 3, and Breaker 4, but certainly with the other enemies that spawn into Pizza Party, there are differing amounts, so it can't seem to be anything to do with the pity kills. But neither does it seem like anything to do with random drop rates, because it doesn't make any sense why this is the first batch and then this is the second batch, where the Commander is seen in the first batch and then the Shotgun is seen in the second batch. Anyways, this is why some people have said, oh, after I got the Scholar skill to max level, I all of a sudden got 11 duplicate logbooks. See? You're wrong. Scholar skill does do something. I get 11 duplicate logbooks for no reason. No, you only get logbooks for enemies that you already have. And that doesn't contribute anything to your inventory whatsoever. More on that later. But I do actually find it really odd that after you get the first enemy logbook that you do not have, you're then able to get new logbooks. Well, not new logbooks. You get duplicate logbooks. And they all appear all at the same time. And it doesn't seem to be anything to do with randomness, nor does it seem to be anything with pity kills. So in my mind, that's just the associated code with logbook giving out that is just broken, especially when it comes to duplicate logbooks, because again, you're not meant to get duplicate logbooks. Now, I've mentioned the fact that duplicate logbooks do not do anything for your inventory, and that's because they don't. They're not tracked. And some people have suggested, well, what happens if there's like a tracker, or why can't the developers add a tracker for duplicate logbooks that you get from game modes? The thing is, you're not meant to do that. Duplicate logbooks are a glitch. They are only gotten, as I said, if you kill an enemy of a logbook that you don't have, you get that logbook, and then you can get logbooks for the same enemies that you already beaten. So, for example, in an easy mode, right, after you clear out the entirety, all the enemies in there, right, and then you move on to casual mode, you can all of a sudden get the speedy, heavy, was it heavy or was it strong, and normal logbooks again, likely because there's going to be new enemies in casual mode where you don't have its logbooks. In that same game mode, or in that same match, you get those logbooks, you can re-get the enemies that you got in easy mode. And some people have said, well, actually, it could be very useful for logbook collecting for the achievements, as seen here. Keeper of all knowledge, 150 logbooks. Yeah, I hate to break it to you, duplicate logbooks do not contribute to the 150 logbooks seen here. They have to be unique logbooks before they actually apply to here. And saying that Scholar contributes to the Keeper of Knowledge is like saying that Arsenal contributed to PSG's title win. Yes, Arsenal were in the way of PSG before their title win in the Champions League. However, they would have likely gotten there if it was Barcelona in their way instead of Arsenal. Same for the Keeper of Knowledge, right? You would have gotten there without the Scholar skill anyways. And in fact, you probably don't need the Scholar skill because most of the logbooks that you get are through pity kills. Very rarely do you ever get it through random chance. And the only ones you do get are through bosses with over 100,000 health. And if you ignore, like, say, 5 of them or 6 of them, in fact, they're not even, like, 10 bosses that have, like, over 100,000 health, where the Scholar skill is the most useful, where it adds a whole 3% to your chance of getting that logbook. And sure, there are some other enemies which it can contribute for, so say the Fallen Honor Guard, or the Health Cultist, or the Molten Boss, because the Molten Boss only has 70,000 health, not 100,000 health, so it's actually rarer than some certain major bosses. However, in my mind, there are actually around 160, 170 normal logbooks that you can get in Tower Defense Simulator, meaning that you can skip boss logbook grinding for the Keeper of All Knowledge. So that point is mute. And also, when it comes to events, you can get all of the non-boss logbook enemies from the Frost Invasion event and the Duck Hunt event, if you played it around, obviously, but recently with the Duck Hunt event, you could probably do that. And it could easily contribute to the 150 logbooks that you require for this title or achievement. So, mute point. And additionally, this reason where I have solved why people are getting duplicate logbooks are also the reasons why some people have said that they only appear to get duplicate logbooks in Pizza Party or in hardcore mode, or even Fallen mode. That is because these enemies have non-boss enemies that are actually quite hard to get in terms of their logbooks. In Fallen mode, that enemy is the Fallen Honor Guard. The Fallen Honor Guard spawns in on wave 35, so if you were to collect it before wave 40, say on wave 35, wave 37 I believe it spawns in, and wave 39, then you're able to get duplicate logbooks from other enemies that you already do have because you killed the Fallen Honor Guard and got its logbook, allowing you to get those. It's the same for Pizza Party. In fact, I even said it, Executioner. That is the logbook that I think is going to trigger this for most players, and which is why Pizza Party has been most commonly reported for this. A, because it's locked to only level 25, whereas Fallen mode is actually locked to level 35, and Hardcore mode is locked to level 50. And B, it's because Pizza Party, I think, is relatively simple to solo. Obviously, you could trigger this through other enemies, such as the Reaper, and I think the Reaper is the most second common, because it spawns in the second most times, after, well, actually third actually, if you include Watch the Fox and Executioner. However, as you'll notice, you can't get any logbooks after you kill a boss, or the final boss. You know why? It's because no enemies spawn in after the major boss dies, obviously. So, if you kill Walks the Fox, yes, technically, if there were more enemies that would spawn in after Walks the Fox dies, then you'll be able to get duplicate logbooks. However, you can't. It is the last enemy that spawns in, which is why it doesn't get triggered in, say, intermediate mode, casual mode, or easy mode, because the logbooks that you're likely missing from those game modes are the major bosses that spawn in at the end of the wave on the final wave, thereby meaning that you have no opportunity to get those rare logbooks or duplicate logbooks. Okay, so what about hardcore mode? Well, there are a whole load of enemies here that are actually quite hard to get. So, firstly, the Legacy Gravedigger is actually counted as a separate enemy to the modern Gravedigger, so you can actually get its logbook. Same for the Molten Boss. These enemies only spawn in once, and they have less than 100,000 health, so they're actually quite hard to get. So you might be pushed right to the pity kill, or at the very least, it's like 20 kills, 30 kills even. And then you get the mother of all logbooks, the Health Cultist. After that, you get the Fallen Swordmaster, and then after that, you possibly could maybe get the Vindicator, and then the Legacy Fallen King. There are like 4, 5, 6 enemies in hardcore mode which are hard to get and are not the Void Reaver, thereby meaning that if you get these logbooks, it triggers the duplicate logbook glitch where it allows you to get logbooks from enemies that you already beat in hardcore mode. And as to why this glitch is associated with the scholar skill, I think it's a placebo effect. People with the scholar skill, they max it up and then they all of a sudden go to town with it, right? They go to play hardcore mode, they go to play pizza party because they're missing those rare logbooks. And they all of a sudden see, oh wait, I got the executioner plush. It's not because of the scholar skill, it's because you played pizza party and hardcore mode a bunch of times over and over again. And because of this glitch, it triggers the duplicate logbook glitch, which allows you to get duplicate logbooks of enemies that you already have. And then all of a sudden, oh look, I have 11 new logbooks. You don't have 11 new logbooks, they're all duplicate logbooks. And also, it's nothing to do with the scholar skill that you just recently bought. It's just because of a glitch that's combined with the fact that you grinded a game mode over and over again, just as you would have done without the scholar skill. Do I not make my point very clear? The scholar skill has nothing to do with this random duplicate logbook glitch that's occurring right now. In fact, it's always happened. It's always happened since the duplicate logbook was supposedly fixed. I noticed this myself in the Duck Hunt event. When I got the Ducky Doom the 3rd logbook, I could all of a sudden get duplicate logbooks for all of the duck enemies again. However, they didn't contribute to anything. They didn't contribute to achievements because, I mean, I already had an achievement, but it wouldn't have contributed to achievements. And it didn't get them a duplicate logbook entry in the index. Like, I know for a fact that I got the Spy Ducky logbook at least 4 times, and yet there's only 1 entry for the Spy Ducky in the index. These duplicate entries, they're glitches based on the game mode that they were reworked with. It considers them legacy and modern at the same time. It's very weird. But like I said, nothing to do with Scholar. You are gaslighting yourself that Scholar is actually useful in Tower Defense Simulator. It is not. Stop believing the myth.